Good evening, I'm Jason Vio. Katarina is away tonight. This is CBC Windsor News. Thank you so much for watching. Tonight, the housing situation for the hundreds of asylum seekers here in Windsor is changing. Plus, Windsor's Street Help has a bit of a problem it's trying to solve to better help the homeless community. There's not enough room for diners to eat there, and there's an overflow of stuff to store. The federal government will be spending more than initially thought for the Volkswagen battery plant. To look at those details tonight. And before a cycling accident that put one Windsor man in a wheelchair, he loved cutting his grass. Now, some high school students are making it happen 5 years later. There are hundreds of people in Windsor who entered this country seeking asylum. They crossed at Roxham Road in Quebec and have been staying at hotels in the city. Tonight, the CBC's TJ Deer shares the hopes and dreams of the people who have been here since winter and takes a look at who has been helping them along the way.
Valentina Sarmiento fled her native Colombia to escape the violence there. She entered Canada with her parents and her younger sister through Roxham Road in Quebec this winter and has already been in Windsor for 5 months. She already has a plan now that she's here.
I would like to study in college. I would like to get a good job and support my family.
4 months after crossing from Washington, Sher Aryan of Afghanistan said his dream of finding work has come true.
I will serve to this country till the end of my life, so this is my second home country.
Aryan and Sarmiento are two of the more than 1,400 asylum seekers that arrived in Windsor last winter. 3 hotels in the city were set up for housing at the time, but that will soon drop to 2. The city says that call was made by Canada's immigration body.
I'm assuming that part of it is based on the amount that have left the hotels, and they're able to bring it down to 2 hotels.
Canada has shut down the Roxham Road crossing in Quebec, so there won't be any new transfers from other areas of the country to Windsor. Lynn says the Provincial Ministry of Labour provided additional staffing supports to assist the asylum seekers that are still in the hotels. Some of the people who've left the hotels have had help from people like Kasim Damusi.
It has been my calling ever since you asked me some time back. I told you that I'm a social worker, so it has been nice. It has been nice with me to work with different groups of people here.
Damusi is a volunteer at Matthew House who also arrived in Windsor as an asylum seeker himself this winter. The organization that helped him is helping resettle people throughout the city after they leave the hotels.
Since January 1, Matthew House has sheltered over 200, and not including anyone at the hotel, we've provided settlement supports for an additional 200.
Morency said after approaching the federal immigration body asking how they could help, Matthew House set up a satellite office in one of the hotels. That office closes Friday, coinciding with the opening of this new facility in Sandwich.
It is a nice central location for people at all the hotels to be able to still gain that settlement support from our staff. But our staff will have the greater convenience of being on site with our own network and our own systems in place.
Matthew House will still be welcoming people with open arms, especially the new facility's host and property coordinator, an asylum seeker and Matthew House resident himself.
I'm the most exciting person on the earth, so far, because it was just like a dream to me. I get into Canada and a team of play. I find myself in Matthew House, and they were really taking good care of me. They did a lot, and from there I got a job, and right now I'll be among the one taking care of the property on this.
To help the asylum seekers with their transition, local English language and French language immigration organizations have planned a celebration for World Refugee Day next week. TJ Deer, CBC News, Windsor.
One of Windsor's few homeless centers has nowhere for people to sit, despite just recently renovating its dining area. This is what the back parking lot of Street Help used to look like. 6 40-foot shipping containers were being used for storage, but they're no longer there. CBC's Jennifer LaGrassa finds out what happened.
As you see, there is no room for them to be in right now.
It's a soup kitchen without any space to eat a warm meal. That's because Street Help's dining room is holding bins of supplies and donations.
All the stuff that was from the shipping containers had to be inside, so we can't have people coming inside the building to eat. It's unfortunate, but we have to make sure, our stuff, when we need it, we can use it.
This is what the space looked like pre-pandemic. About a dozen people or so could eat and hang out inside. During COVID-19, the space closed to indoor guests. Last year, in preparation to reopen and store an overwhelming amount of donations, it added 6 40-foot shipping containers behind its building. Kitchen essentials, clothing, canned food, boxes, and bins of items that needed to be stowed away. But in October, the city got a complaint about the shipping containers.
So the city's zoning bylaw 8600 has a prohibition section, shipping containers that are not permitted on residential property. We always recommend to reaching out to the city, in particular the planning and building department, if they are thinking about proposing additions to their buildings or constructing accessory buildings on their property.
We didn't know at the time, but we did end up moving them. They were holding everything in there, and it was good that we had them because it was a need. Definitely was a need.
Nelson says the bins still have supplies in them and were moved to a new location in February. He wishes the city would have made an exception for them. Is there any talks at this moment to get yourselves a bigger space, to get yourself just a bigger building so that you can accommodate?
No, I don't think we're going to be moving. We're not be moving. We're still going to be here.
Nelson says he's unsure what the next steps are, but knows they want to welcome back guests into their dining room soon. Jennifer LaGrassa, CBC News, Windsor.
The federal government will spend $16.3 billion on a new Volkswagen electric battery plant. That's according to a new analysis by the Parliamentary Budget Officer. This is the one going to St. Thomas that experts say will be similar to the offer sent to Stellantis and LG for its EV battery plant. Now, that figure is almost $3 billion more than what taxpayers were told it would cost. In April, the feds agreed to give Volkswagen more than $13 billion in subsidies over the next decade to build the automaker's first EV battery plant outside of Europe, right here in southern Ontario. The PBO's review also found that the economic benefit from the building of the plant would be minimal. Krista Freeland says the report by the Parliamentary Budget Officer draws the wrong conclusion.
It's really important that Canadians understand that the Volkswagen investment is fully accounted for in the fiscal framework. We knew about it when the budget was tabled, and it is in the underlying numbers. The numbers that the PBO is working off of are numbers in the embedded in the fiscal framework, which were provided to the PBO by the Department of Finance. So we're working off of the same numbers, and the point of difference is on the tax treatment of the investment. The IRA incentives are not taxable.
Now, Freeland did make a comment about the LG and Stellantis deal, but only to say she believes something will be coming soon. Now, sticking with cars, it's not getting any easier to purchase a new one. Buying a car has never been more expensive, and that's if you can even find the one you want. CBC business reporter Anis Hadari explains.
Getting a new car isn't as simple as it used to be.
We have just recently purchased a brand new plug-in hybrid.
This make and model wasn't Jennifer Nemet's first choice.
When we spoke to a salesperson, I said, I'm here for the RAV4 Prime, and they actually laughed at us. It's an 8-year wait, he said. It was an 8-year wait list. They had one in the showroom that had arrived that day, and he goes, it's going out this evening. Somebody's been waiting for it. Not only that, it's $25,000 more than when you build it online, when you're building your vehicle.
She went elsewhere.
Say hello to the RAV4 Prime.
Rather than wait 8 years for this car. But it's not just one model with bizarre wait times. There's data showing less dealer inventory in Canada than before COVID. At the same time, auto dealers say more people are shopping. That's not helping prices either.
Our demand is still strong, which for sure is a good thing for dealership, but because of the supply is still not at the level that the demand is, it has an effect on prices.
Many costs to make a vehicle are still going up, and while some supply chain issues are improving, economists say the sticker price may not.
I wouldn't hold my breath for fire sales at dealerships right now. I think that one thing that they've learned over the course of the pandemic is that they don't need to keep as much inventory on hand as they thought they did prior to the pandemic.
There was no reason given really at all.
And customers are learning that the hard way.
I have no power anymore. There's no more wheeling and dealing. They say this is how much it is, and you say, yes, please. Oh, please allow me to have this vehicle. Please, please, please.
it may not change anytime soon. With high costs and high demand, bargaining horsepower could stay low. Anis Haidari, CBC News, Edmonton.
And a reprieve today for some individuals who claim they were victims of a fraudulent immigration scheme. Several dozen people were faced with being deported from Canada after it was discovered some of their school documents were fake. Today, though, Ottawa agreed to let them stay while a committee reviews their cases. Chris O'Neill-Yates has that story.
On day 17 of camping out in front of the Canada Border Services Agency, rain or shine, this group of students from India is relieved that they could be allowed to stay in Canada.
They will look closely to each and every file, and definitely there is a relief for the students, those who came here to study and their intentions are so clear to study. So this is a good thing.
Today, the immigration minister announced a task force to look into each case. Students who can show they didn't know their acceptance records were fake won't be sent home.
Those international students who are genuine applicants that came to Canada to study and were victimized by fraudsters will be given permission to remain in Canada.
Students say they hired consultants back home in India who provided college admission letters to get a student visa. But when they reached Canada, the consultant then told them that they could no longer attend the college that had accepted them. So they changed schools and got their degrees, started working and building lives here. But when they applied for permanent residency, they learned that their college acceptance letters were fake.
It's been reported that there are 700. Our numbers are significantly lower than that at present. There are a few dozen people.
The students will be granted an 8-week temporary residence permit and be allowed to work while the task force reviews their cases. If they were defrauded, that permit will be extended for 3 years. During that period, they can apply to become permanent residents. Harjit Sidhu has been in Canada for 6 years and desperately wants to stay.
We are honest, we are innocent, so that's give us a power to come front of everybody and deal with this situation. As we say from the first day, we are victim, we are innocent, we are not culprits.
Today's measures are a good start, according to this immigration lawyer.
So I'll be looking to see if there's clarity and fairness in the interplay between what he's proposed today and how that ends up impacting the permanent residence process.
Now those who say they were innocent victims of fraudulent consultants back home will get the opportunity to make their case. And they're warning others to be careful too. Chris O'Neill-Yates, CBC News, Toronto.
Still to come here on CBC Windsor News Live at 6, there's some more rain in the forecast. We'll have all of your local weather details coming up next. Plus, a look at how high school students have helped a Windsor man get back to his favorite hobby. People take a lot of pride in their lawns. The perfectly cut lines, the color. It can also change the way the neighborhood looks and feels. And this next story shows how it can also help build a community. Now this is Rob Piper with some new friends from St. Anne Catholic School. Piper had dreams of starting his own lawn cutting business, but about 5 years ago, he was injured in a cycling accident. Piper now uses a wheelchair and needs some support to mow his lawn. He put out a call on Facebook and now has a new device designed and built by high school students.
So excited. The boys and girls did an amazing job on it.
They're absolutely amazing. I can't believe the way they just stepped up and did this for them.
Last year we started it. Mr. Costa was approached by a colleague at one of his schools to build a lawnmower for. It was her brother's best friend, and we basically kind of just bought the lawnmower. We had some ideas and got the frame for it built.
And at the time, Jennifer, Miss Shepherd, was EA in my classroom, and Jennifer's brother Marco is good friends with Robert. Marco, she approached Jennifer with regards to the project of hooking up a lawnmower to his wheelchair because he'd like to get out and do something. Before I could get back to Jennifer and get back to Marco, Marco passed away. So he wasn't aware that, he's not aware that this project actually was completed. That's why the lawnmower is called Project Marco. Rob came up with that name.
I was crying on the inside, but didn't show it on the outside. But I was so happy, so grateful that they've done this for me.
I'm happy for Rob, and I'm so proud of all these students and Mike for stepping up and fulfilling my brother's hope for Rob, for him to be independent and to be able to do this. Our family is extremely proud. Mike shared some photos with me and I shared them, and my mom is beyond touched.
It honestly just feels really incredible, and to see that it all did come together, and it all came together with my help and all the other students, and it's just a really, really great feeling. And just seeing it work in action it's incredible.
He wants to get out and he wants to cut grass. He even started helping with the neighbor till the weather got bad. But just the excitement to go outside now, where before he wasn't. You know, he'd just sit in the house and kind of watch everybody cut the grass and mope from the window.
What's next?
Yeah, you know, cutting grass is one thing. What's next?
Maybe a snowplow?
Time now for a look at weather. No white stuff coming up anytime soon, but a major dumping of rain yesterday and maybe a bit more of that on the way. For a full look at our local weather forecast, let's head to Joanna Wagstaff.
Yeah, Jason, not quite as active tonight as it was about 24 hours ago, but that swirling low that brought the thunderstorms yesterday to southwestern Ontario, that's still in the picture, just pulling out of eastern Ontario. So skies clearing quite dramatically this evening across Windsor. Taking a look at the snapshot for tomorrow's highs, feeling that humidity build in once again. 24 for Windsor with a bit of a humidex. We're talking feeling like the high 20s, and you can see we're just starting to get into the edge of a very warm air mass, not quite making its way right across the lower Great Lakes, certainly not quite out towards the east coast, but I wanted to show you the big temperature trend. So this is over the next 5 days. Keep your eye on this building heat in the red. Those are the well above seasonal temperatures. And early next week, we're going to watch for that to move across the lower Great Lakes. So it's a slow climb to above seasonal for the weekend for Windsor. And then as we head into early to mid next week, we'll really watch for that temperature bump. Okay, overall, clearing skies tonight. You start your Thursday off with a clear start, but by the afternoon hours, the next system comes in from the northwest. And the center of that low does get quite close to Windsor, so we may be looking at a round of thunderstorms once again tomorrow afternoon. Then that low swings down south. So Friday clearing out in the morning, but it stays close enough that we're looking at a fairly cloudy Friday. Slight chance of a stray shower, but I think for the most part, your Friday looking much drier than the rest of southern Ontario. So a risk of an afternoon thunderstorm tomorrow. Muggy, but temperatures to 23. Friday is when we'll look to see things really clear out, but keeping that risk of higher clouds in for the end of your work week. And then high pressure dominates for the weekend. Notice temperatures start to get into the high 20s. With a bit of mugginess, it will be feeling like the low 30s. At this point, it does look like southwestern Ontario, you get clipped by a few showers, clearing back out for early next week. And Jason wanted to mention those gusty winds from the northwest tomorrow. A lot going on before we see a bit of a calmer weekend ahead.
I like the way that weekend looks. Thanks so much, Joanna. Still to come, millions of Canadians do not have a family doctor. We'll hear about a solution to help address the problem coming up right after the break. Bell Media says it's closing or selling 9 of its radio stations right across the country. They're selling Windsor's AM 580 and shutting down CJBK in London. CTV's foreign bureaus in London, England and Los Angeles are set to close, and operations in Washington will be scaled back. Now, parent company BCE Inc. says it will be cutting 1,300 positions across the company. It says around 30% of the positions being eliminated are current vacancies that just won't be filled. In a memo, Bell says the job cuts are in response to what it describes as unfavorable public policy and regulatory conditions. The company says its media plan involves moving to a single newsroom approach across brands, allowing for greater collaboration and efficiency. 7 million Canadians do not have a family doctor. The problem is particularly acute for those who live outside of a major city. One Canadian medical school was established to directly address the issue. After 15 years of graduating doctors, it appears to be working. David Common has this report from Northern Ontario.
What's going on? What's brought you into emergency today?
The emergency room in Sioux Lookout, Ontario is rarely quiet, seeing patients from across Northern Ontario. Like many rural and remote areas, getting doctors to live here is a major challenge.
Do you think you'll ever work in a Toronto hospital?
Definitely not Toronto.
Dr. Brenna Duffy is bucking the trend. She only wants to work in smaller communities.
No offense to my urban colleagues, but I just don't feel like you would get the same kind of challenges and interest. I mean, like I said, we have such complicated cases. It makes medicine fun. Come with me over to the board.
Dr. Duffy is a graduate of the Northern Ontario School of Medicine. Now in its 15th year, it's doubling its student intake and finding success with its model, recruiting future doctors who come from smaller communities, training them away from big city hospitals so they'll stay rural and remote when they graduate.
Do you think what you've got is the solution?
I think it's part of the solution.
Doctor and school dean Sarita Verma calls it the No Ordinary School of Medicine, in part because students spend much less time in a classroom.
Traditional healers can come and make their medicines because
90% of the patients here are Indigenous. Many of the doctors are not. This training intended to bridge their worlds.
that's the birch bark fungus. It's really high in antioxidants. Blood sugar.
At the nearby Lac Seul First Nation, soon-to-be doctors Rosemary Rankin and Tafim Unnisa are halfway through a 4-week live-in immersion on the reserve to better understand the communities they'll eventually serve. Tafim is from Timmins, Ontario.
There's such a lack of healthcare due to the geographical limitations of Northern Ontario, and it made me want to, pursue it.
We hear so much about crisis and failure inside Canada's medical system, but this approach is finding success and getting noticed by other medical schools nationwide. Students and graduates are keen to celebrate it. David Common, CBC News, Sioux Lookout, Ontario.
We are nearing the end of the school year, and I know my kids are definitely excited. And students sometimes bring gifts to their teachers at the end of the year, but a teacher in Nunavut is turning that around with gifts for her students on the last day of school. Becky Hutchings loves knitting, and she made 18 sweaters starting last August. These 18 sweaters here. She said she had to put off the knitting for a while to care for her mother, but managed to get 10 done in 2 months. She's carrying on a family tradition. Her mother was a teacher who also made sweaters for her class. That's it for us here at CBC Windsor News Live at 6. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget, though, for news anytime, head to our website, cbc.ca/Windsor. And we're on social media as well. You can check us out on Facebook and Instagram. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night.